We are 1 week past the release of Dawntrail's early access, and more players are getting to level 100, clearing and farming the new extreme trials and getting to grips with the intricacies of the new jobs and the 7.0 iterations of the old ones. I'm having a lot of fun, and this weekend there's a video going live to discuss my Dawntrail opinions on the whole. But today I want to yap about something else. One thing that took me a little bit by surprise was the fact that yesterday Naoki Yoshida wrote a blog post on the FF14 lodestone to discuss a handful of jobs, which in his words have several issues that may have proven a hindrance to your overall experience. He also, in something that usually doesn't happen whatsoever until after changes are actually made, has provided context and reasoning for why changes are going to be made, as well as alluding to what shape those changes will take. So today, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to discuss all the changes he mentioned, what form I feel they'll take specifically, and whether I think they need to be changed in the first place. I'm also going to mention a couple of jobs that he left off the list that I actually feel should be receiving a bit of an adjustment going forward. First up is Monk. I'm going to quote Yoshi P's message for each of these jobs, then talk about what they mean. While it was our aim to preserve Monk's playstyle from the patch 6.x series, several changes to their core abilities, Stacks of Fury chief among them, have significantly changed how it feels to play the job. We discovered certain actions had incorrect potencies, as well as an error pertaining to the requirements to apply Stacks of Fury. We plan to address these issues in patch 7.01, which should result in improved effectiveness in AoE attacks. This also will necessitate minor adjustments to the job HUD. My apologies again for Monk's inadequate performance, which presently differs from what we previously announced. So Monk received a new job gauge, and with it has come a load of jank. So you know how you gain Fury stacks by using certain combo actions and then you spend them with others? The core of the job's rotation is to work around those now instead of upkeeping buffs, using gaining GCDs when you have no stacks and spending them when you have them. But the job is just kind of broken, and Dragon Kick provides a Fury stack regardless of your current Oppo form, making the current best rotation being 1-1-2-3. You'll Dragon Kick and Boot Shine every cycle before you do your 2 and 3. It's kind of weird, it's clearly not intended, and this is what the error pertaining to the requirements to apply Stacks of Fury likely pertains to. Also, funnily enough, I mentioned in the Media Tour build that Monk's AoE doesn't interact with this new job gauge, and it still doesn't. But what they forgot to do is buff its potency to make up for that fact. This means that currently, Monk AoE is only worth using on I believe it's 4 or more targets, and it seems like that's going to be adjusted in the upcoming patch. Very needed changes on the whole, so I'm glad they're being made in regards to this job. The Astro changes are as follows. We've received considerable feedback concerning Astrologian, specifically the difficulty of play during damage burst phases, which we plan to address in patch 7.01. Lightspeed, which is essential in these phases, will have its recast time adjusted, and will also be made into a charged action. We're also planning to shorten the recast time of their 2 draw actions and adjust the potency of Macrocosmos. I ask for your patience as we work to implement these changes in a timely fashion. Now these changes are great. At a guess, this means that Lightspeed is going to be adjusted to being a 60-second cooldown with 2 charges, rather than a 90-second cooldown with 1. The way Lightspeed works right now is that in optimal play you are almost forced to use it with your 2-minute burst. There's a few things this adjustment could technically mean. Number 1, that you'll be getting 2 Lightspeed charges, or that Lightspeed will swap to a stack-based system rather than a flat timer. For example, it will make a set number of GCDs instant, much like Triplecast does. My money is on the former based on the wording. As a result, AS has the most limited on-demand movement of the healers by far. They also mention reducing the recast times of Umbral Draw and Astral Draw. I think this is going to be fairly minimal, like they might go down from 60 seconds to 55. If it goes to 30 or something like that, I'll be utterly shocked. This is likely to aid in fixing alignment issues, because right now avoiding the cards drifting can be a bit of a hassle, and this will allow you to easily get both sets of cards under raid buff properly and comfortably. Even Viper, one of the brand new jobs, got its own little section. They stated the following. Newly released in patch 7.0, we've received feedback pertaining to the busyness of their skill rotation. To that end, we're planning several improvements, including the easing of directional requirements and changes to the effects of several actions. We're aiming to implement these changes by patch 7.05, though we also intend to make some smaller adjustments to the range of certain abilities in patch 7.01. It will take a while longer, but we hope to address player concerns as best we can. So I have exactly one word in response to this. Why? Isn't Viper being busy like the entire point of the job? It's supposed to be a very simple to understand and follow rotation that is fast and frenetic and contains a lot of weaving. That is literally the core of its job design when it comes to every facet of its gameplay. If people are complaining about it being too busy, that implies that Viper's gameplay style just isn't for them, not that it needs adjustments to suit them. I'm curious as to where exactly they got that feedback and how widespread it is, honestly, because for the most part what I've heard is actually the opposite. I've heard incredibly glowing reviews about how fun Viper is to play from many people, as well as what I've seen on social media. They mention easing the positional requirements too, which is one that I find a little odd. I actually haven't played the job at 100 since the media tour, but it is true that it has slightly more positionals than the average melee does. I guess you can liken it to a combination of Monk and Reaper. It has a positional at the end of its basic 1-2-3 combo, and then it has another one on its equivalent of Gibbet and Gallows. So in the current era of FF14, it definitely has more positionals than average, but to me, that's not a bad thing. In terms of what they mean by changing several actions, I'm guessing this in part refers to the duration of Noxious Nash. Right now it's 20 seconds per refresh, and you can have a maximum duration of up to 40 seconds, which is somewhat unique in terms of 14 timers. Usually they do 30 seconds up to a maximum of 60, at least I think that's what people would assume. Right now with it being 20 seconds, I've been told that during your burst window when you have a full stockpile of resources, you need to take a few seconds midway through to refresh Noxious Nash to avoid dropping it. Extending its duration for fresh and total would remove that potential requirement. I don't feel too strongly either way about it and whether that timer should increase, but I would just like to note that people spent 3 years complaining about job homogenization only to immediately want a simple, fun and relatively unique job to be homogenized the moment its burst didn't fit cookie cutter into their expectations. Odd that. For Black Mage they said, before learning the action Umbral Soul, Black Mage has difficulty recovering MP. We plan to address this with adjustments in patch 7.01, with plans to make further adjustments to action potencies in 7.05. Well, this is good. Really all I have to say is that I hope this takes the form of shifting Umbral Soul to a much lower unlock level, so that older content, especially the level 70 and 80 ultimates, are bearable, because right now they are not fun on Black Mage. Right now, low-level Black Mage is just kind of a mess of a job. For example, they said that they were removing percentage-based procs, and yet Fire 1 still has a percentage-based proc attached, for no reason. That's kind of interesting, I think. In regards to tanks, Yoshida stated that players have concerns with holding enmity in battle due to the fact that certain jobs are able to begin encounters with high damaging attacks. An issue compounded by the removal of damage from Dark Knight and Gunbreaker's movement abilities. To help remedy this, we will be adding increased enmity effects to tank AoE attacks, as well as their movement abilities in patch 7.01. Okay, so this is actually a really good and smart change as well. If you're an experienced tank, especially in dungeons with a penchant for going fast, you'll know that pulling every pack with your ranged attack is often just flat out not your best option. Sometimes it's better to pull with Provoke because Provoke has a higher range than all of your attacks themselves. And sometimes, if you can pack them really quickly, it's actually the best to use your Gap Closer and then AoE combo as they rush you to pull a pack of mobs, especially when you're pulling secondary mobs when you're doing a double pull. These are both pretty solid ways to pull second packs and get them grouped quickly and efficiently. Thanks to the Dawntrail changes, when you do that now on Gunbreaker or Dark Knight, you have this awkward moment where the mobs ignore you and zoom straight towards the healer instead. so this should help rectify that quite nicely. Also, they're talking about Pictomancer when they talk about jobs starting encounters with high damaging attacks. That job is absolutely nuts. For Samurai and Red Mage, they said that for Samurai will be reducing the recast timer of Tendo Setsugeka and Tendo Kaishi Setsugeka. For Red Mage will be extending the effect duration of Manification. The Red Mage change is kind of whatever. Getting your full Manification off has become a little tighter, but it was still totally doable. And I'm alright with additional leniency for the less confident players, so this is kind of a whatever change to me. I don't mind it at all. It seems like a fairly minor adjustment on the whole. For Samurai, however, I actually don't like this change at all. Samurai traditionally has a number of filler GCDs every minute, and you'd adjust that number of filler GCDs based on your skill speed. With your Tendo having an extended recast timer over your basic skills, that small annoyance was eliminated as far as I know, and in its place you got a cool opportunity for job optimization where you could triple weave and do something very unique to Samurai. Making it a normal recast once again feels like a bit of a cop-out, if I'm honest with you. Lastly, for Pictomancer, it was said that we've discovered an issue wherein players could manually disable the effects of Subtractive Palette, Aether Hues, and Aether Hues 2. This will be addressed with patch 7.01, but we ask that you please refrain from manually removing these status effects when practicing your rotations. My apologies for any confusion this may have caused. So, you've heard of non-standard Black Mage, but 7.0 gave rise to non-standard Pictomancer. This job does so much damage that it doesn't seem fair, and there are a few janky potencies in its arsenal that have provided an outlet for scorned Black Mage enthusiasts to apply their cursed tech to. Right now, it's actually a DPS gain if you click off your standard 1-2-3 combo. You gain 40 potency per combo from doing so. This is absolutely not intended, and honestly I think it shows good initiative from Square Enix that they're willing to instantly fix an undesired element of one of their new poster child jobs. I hope they keep this up, honestly. One job I'm still kinda salty about is Sage. They made the AoE dot and the single target dot no longer stack, and I don't agree with it, but it's fine. I'll deal with it. I understand that they have made a design decision and, you know, I'm over it. But while I was leveling Sage, I've learnt the unintended side effect of that. So you know on healers, usually while the mobs are being pulled and packed together, you have a multiple GCD window where you'll usually be applying dots to mobs, ready to spam filler when they get grouped up. If the enemies die quickly and you do that, there is limited uses for your AoE dot whatsoever, because the mobs die before those single target dots have even dropped, or in some cases immediately after, so it's not worth reapplying an AoE dot. It's suddenly become a super niche and not so good tool, unfortunately, that you generally just use when your group is slow, or if you have a really awkward pull that you can't pre-dot. I honestly just really hope they do something about this because it just feels a bit lackluster. I'm really happy about some of these changes, but some of the adjustments just have me kind of scratching my head. But more than anything, I'm impressed and comforted by Square Enix's willingness to converse with and explain to the Final Fantasy XIV community the reasoning behind their decisions when it comes to impending job changes this expansion. And I hope that going forward, we can continue this incredibly positive trend. I feel like the future of this game can be very, very bright. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.